Evening, everyone. I hope you're all okay. I can't see you, but I can see Bassim, which is very, very nice. I was saying to Bassim, I haven't seen him for such a long time, so it's great to have Bassim Haidar. I'll introduce him formally in a few minutes, but firstly, thank you to all of us. I think we have a couple of hundred people registered to join us tonight, and that's all thanks really to Bassim Haidar plus um, IWG, our partner, who are co-sponsoring the event. Richard Morris, who's the yes, who's the chief executive of IWG Group. He said he's going to join us a little bit later if he can. He was called into an urgent call, so please excuse him if he can't. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Shalini Kemker. I'm the founder and I'm the CEO of E2E. And I'm delighted to be joining you all this evening with the incredible Bassim Haidar. Quickly, in terms of the format, and hopefully you all know the drill now because we've been doing this week on week. Basically, in terms of the format, what we'd like to do is I will talk to you a little bit about E2E because I know there's a few new people who've joined us today. I then have the pleasure of introducing Bassim properly, and then we'll go into, we want to make it quite interactive as we can being online. So in terms of interaction, would you use the Zoom function? On the bottom of the Zoom function, there's a little thing called raise your hand. And if you raise your hand, then you can basically ask a question. And by asking a question, Stephen, our CTO, who's working in the background, you can't see him, he will make the camera live if you would like that. And then you can have a proper conversation with Bassim. So hopefully that makes some sense. We're due to finish around 7:15. So let me just tell you a little bit about E2E. As many of you know, the way I like to describe us is the match.com of entrepreneurship. Over the last 9 years, I've known Bassim since 2011. Since that time, we haven't been able to keep up with him because he's got 650 million users. We have 23,000 members. The 23,000 members, they contribute 213 billion to the UK economy. They employ 1.15 million people. And I say match.com of business because, as you know, we are a connector. We like to connect our founders to the who's who of entrepreneurship. And our whole reason for being is really to help convert knowledge into wisdom. So someone like Bassim, he's been down that journey. He started his career, his businesses when he was in his early 20s or even before that. And there's so much that we can learn from him. So that's part of our rationale and our ethos. The other part of our rationale is to make sure that we provide capital. This is access to investment capital, human capital, technology, and corporate services. So in terms of that capital, it's through the members, but also through our partners. IWG is our serviced office partner. UBS is our wealth management partner. And if you take a look at our website, you will see all of the other partners that we have who support this whole ecosystem of growth. Now, as many of you know, it's been a very, very tough time for every single SME. It's been a challenging time since March. Even for ourselves, we've had to pivot our business quite a bit. But one of the things I've been fortunate enough to be involved in is something called the Business Action Council. The Business Action Council was set up by Maurice Ostro. If you were online last week, he joined us for a House of Lords online breakfast. On that, hopefully you've all heard about the flexi furlough. I lead the government's subcommittee to recommend changes for the employee retention scheme. So one of the first papers that I put forward along with my colleague Sean was to ask for the government to consider flexi furlough. So that happened in July. That is continuing right now until the end of this month. Also, the Chancellor introduced a couple of weeks ago in his economic statement, in his winter economic statement, the short-term working directive. So the idea behind that is not to make people redundant, but for the government to top up pay. So if you'd like to know more about the short-time working directive, if you drop me a line, I can tell you. And then we were quite instrumental in getting the bounce back loan. I worked with Lord Bill Moria. So if you haven't used the bounce back loan and you want to, that's been extended. The C-bills has been extended. So part of the remit of E2E has been to campaign for change on the COVID policies. And it's been very good because people are writing into us to ask us to campaign for more change. So one of the things that I'm hopefully putting forward to the Chancellor on the 27th of October is to reverse the decision that's been made due to Brexit around duty-free. At the moment, the government has made the decision that anyone from the EU shopping in the UK don't get the upside of duty-free. We're asking for a reversal of that. So any issues like that that you'd like to tabulate with us, please feel free to talk to us, and we will try to do our best to do those things. It's not just myself. I'm backed by a very, very, very good team. So we're all working very hard to act as a conduit between government and our members, as well as in between each other. Anyway, so hopefully giving you a little bit of a feel of the various things that we're up to. I'd really like to now make a proper introduction to Bassim, and I will just share with you very quickly before I do this some of the partnership upsides that we have with Richard Morris of IWG. So IWG, hopefully you know, is the world's largest serviced office company. They have 2.5 million people in their workspaces. They're in 3,300 locations in 110 countries. We are the only company in the UK that can provide a 50% discount to any of their packages in the UK. So if you're taking a 6-month contract, we can give you 3 months free. Also, they've agreed that we're also the only company in the UK to provide unlimited use of any of the IWG lounges anywhere in the UK, including their airport lounges. So, and 10% discount on meeting rooms. Often we're working from home, but we need a meeting room for a boardroom. So if you need to use that, we can also offer a 10% discount with IWG if that's of interest to you. So hopefully that gives you a bit of the upside as to why they're partnering with us. Now, I'm going to just share with you a few words. He's my friend. I like to call Bassim, I see him as a friend because it's not the first time Bassim's speaking for us. This is about the 4th time in the last 9 years. And I have to thank him, Bassim. I have to thank you because watching the way that you work and your work ethos and the way that you manage leadership and people, in the times we've had together, I've learned a lot. And I'm hoping that some of that has been rubbing off on me. They say if you surround yourself by the right people, you tend to grow that way. So I'm very fortunate to have you as a friend, and thank you.
Yeah,
so Bassim was born in Nigeria. He co-founded his first company in 1991, which is called Intercom Limited and GMT. And it's become now the leading integrated procurement, finance, and logistics provider in West Africa. In 2003, he founded Channel IT to cater and provide supplies and services to the telecom industry in Nigeria. Today, the company operates in 19 countries and plays a major role in infrastructure and services in Africa and the Middle East. In 2011, when I started E2E, he founded Channel VAS, and now it's the leading vendor of mobile, financial, and fintech services for the emerging markets globally. Channel VAS is currently reaching over 650 million users. So remember I mentioned we've got 23,000. I have a very long way to go to get to the
some tips later.
Yeah, I want to learn. I'm going to absorb today, Bassim. 650 million customers in more than 30 different countries. It offers smart handset financing for emerging markets, offering financial inclusion to all and allowing users in the underserved areas to bank more efficiently. So microfinance, you know, I mean, I think he's taken microfinancing to a different level, Bassim has. So I'd like to really say thank you to Bassim. He's an inspirational chap. He's been speaking at Davos. And as I mentioned, he's one of the best leaders I've ever had the opportunity to get to know. So Bassim, thank you very much. Now, I will ask you to share your journey with us, if I may.
Thank you. Thank you all, and good to have you all here, but even though I can't see you too, but I'll just give you a very, quick history of how I started. And it was always based on the same principles, which is I never developed anything in any of my businesses around the world based on certain parameters that most people use. So I never said someone didn't do this, therefore I'm going to do it, because obviously there's a reason why someone didn't do something. It's either failed or it doesn't work. I never copied anyone. I never thought of a nice idea and said it's because it's a nice idea I'm going to do it. I focus on one thing only, and this is what I always tell people: find the need, where the need is. And if you find the need and you can cater for that need, that's exactly where you're going to be successful. That's your first starting point. Financing, etc., that comes after, but the need is the most important thing. So, and if you why I start with this is because when you go back to 1991, times were different, obviously. There was no telecom services in Nigeria where I started business, and it was purely a point-to-point communication, and there was no point-to-point communication. There was a central telephone exchange in Lagos, and all the factories were outside. So I found a solution that I could take these telephone lines remotely outside Lagos state, 50, 70 miles away, and demand was crazy and had exclusivity on a product. That's all I did. I didn't do any magic. All I found was the need, and the need, people were coming to me, and that's how I developed the first capital. I was making huge margins on these devices because no one else had them. And secondly, went a few years later and I started a satellite business, basically catering for TV. Just there was no real TV or content in these markets, and I was able to capture a signal in West Africa using an 8 diameter dish at the time, which took me a year to finish and design. And again, it was a need. People wanted content and so on and so forth. And then obviously the logistics business, because logistics was a nightmare in West Africa and so on. But I think the key business, which has scaled even beyond my imagination, is the business I started in 2011, which started from a simple idea where someone would call me and drop the line, and you would have to call them back. And it was always very frustrating. You don't see this in the West, but you see it a lot in Africa and emerging markets. And he was like, why did you just call me and drop? Like a staff says, I don't have credit. And I'm like, can't you buy credit? No, I haven't sold today, or I haven't gotten my salary yet. So I just call you and I drop the line so I don't get charged. So I thought, okay, what if I can provide credit to this person on the other side? The problem I faced was there was no data. How do I score this person to make sure they can pay me back? And therefore, we started to develop tools using their behavior on the telco network. We started to use data that was gold mine, but it was just thrown there in the systems of the telcos and never utilized. And we thought, can we make sense of this data? And we started with certain logic, and we grew that. And we started in the first country where we had a few thousand people. Before we knew it, and it was in Cameroon initially, before we knew it, we had 3 million customers within 6 months. And obviously, we started to improve the engine. Then I acquired technology businesses that allowed me to improve the technology more. We now have more than 70 data scientists, all of them in Greece. And all they do is develop these scorecards for these customers. Going into this and seeing people need airtime and data credit, I thought, why don't we take this one step further and go to microfinance? So providing small loans of $50 and $100 loans. Again, the problem is you need to be able to distribute the loan. You need to be able to recover the loan from certain wallets. You need to be able to score these customers. So we started to look for the sources of data. We found the sources of data. Those sources were the mobile wallet, which was actually very telling. What we found out, and the most interesting part was of all of this, is that in the West, in Europe, in the States, people are hesitant to willingly give information about themselves because they feel it's going to be used wrongly. In all emerging markets, we found that people want to willingly give the information so they could get credit. And that was a very powerful thing because we were able to get ID, we were able to get KYC information. That was very, very important. And the business started to scale like crazy. So we went from few thousand users in 2011 to 650 million people on our platform today. So we've got scores on something like 10% of the world's population, twice the amount of data that Twitter has, twice the amount of users that Twitter has. Our data is far richer than them. So, and the next step for us is to be able to monetize this data even further by aggregating it, getting the consent from our users around the world and say, well, Google Pay or Facebook or someone would like to access your credit scores in order to provide you services and so on, are you willing to do so? And if they want to do that, we connect these big giants with people in these emerging markets. And one of the key things we found out is that from the moment we pre-qualify people, so it's very important. This is very important because the journey must be very simple for a user. I'm a woman that works in the textile industry in Bangladesh, and I'm trying to borrow $50 so I can sew some clothes and sell them and make $20 margin. If I try to go to a bank is 50 kilometers away. The journey is going to take one day, going back one day. So it's very, very difficult for someone to apply for a loan. She needs two guarantors, etc. With us, we pre-qualify the whole base. The moment she lands on our platform, we instantly either approve her or disapprove and remit the money into her account. What we found out is people want to pay back. People who have difficulty paying back call us and say, please, we want to pay back, but we're late by a few days and so on. And if you look at this, our default rates are under 4%, which is incredibly low. I mean, even in Europe, the default rates are a lot higher. If you remember the examples of Wanga and so on, they had 30% defaults. So this is putting it in a nutshell. But again, it comes down to the one thing where there is a need. We catered for that need, and we develop the products and the services that are very easy to use, and people keep on adopting these products.
Thank you, Bassim. Thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. But you didn't tell us how you got to the 650 million.
That's the secret sauce.
Users. So may I kick off? I'm going to ask the audience to raise your hand and ask questions. But may I kick off with that one first of all, if I may? How did you get to this such a large user base? What was the tactics?
So I went through the untraditional route of going to the people who have the distribution, and that was the telcos, so the Vodafones of this world and all of that. And I said, well, you've got amazing reach, but today all you do is just provide voice and data. You don't monetize anything else. I said there's a whole suite of products that I can sell and lay on top of your current platforms, and I will share the revenue with you. How does that sound to you? You take no risk. I will do all the investments in software and all the CapEx, and I'll just give you revenues for allowing me access. As a result of doing that, they opened up their platforms to us, and we started to deploy our technology. And this is why we've been growing almost at 80, 90 million customers every year since we started.
I see. So, I mean, the tactic there is that you're taking the risk and you're sharing in the upside and sharing in the economics.
Totally.
How would you advise for companies who are not in that position? Obviously, you've built Channel Group to be in that position, but if you're not already in that position, how did you start that journey? Did you say, okay, I'm willing to take quite a bit of risk, and I will start and take that risk and then grow it from there, or what can you share with somebody who doesn't?
Obviously there's no business without the risk. But again, there's reasons why businesses become successful. It's not because it's just an idea. You've got to have the formula right. If you want to try something and you know that 2 out of 5 is not right, but you hope for the best, that's not going to work. You've got to have the 5 out of 5 working, the 5 fundamentals. And need is the most critical one. There has to be a need. People must need what you want to offer. It's not enough to try and market something people don't need as a gimmick. And this is why Facebook is so successful, because they play on psychology and curiosity of people to get to know things. So there's a need. They keep pulling on these services. With us, it's the same. Someone would assume that during the lockdowns that our business was affected. Actually, we did better because people paid a bit late, but they paid more because they wanted to not disconnect from the need to be able to borrow, which is super critical. And more importantly, is that people felt a lifeline to a credit service that they wouldn't otherwise have. But going back at the beginning, I didn't know all of this, but I knew that people will need credit, people need access to banking, people will need data access, airtime access, and so on. So I did take the risk. I never raised any money. I put in my own money into the business, and I tried it at a small scale. And when I saw the opportunity and I understood the mechanism of how this would work, I started to scale. So I wouldn't just jump in to hot water because I think, oh, this sounds or this feels very good. So my advice is, you might not be in that position, but remember, I come from very humble backgrounds. I started from nowhere. I started with a simple idea in the 90s, and I started to accumulate my own capital, and I've never borrowed in order to fund any of these businesses that I started. Today's world is very different. Today's world, you need to actually go out there, you need to sell yourself, and so on. Investors are becoming a lot smarter. You're not going to be able to trick them with an idea that doesn't sound appealing, because these guys have been through a lot of this. They burn a lot of cash on businesses. They might have 1 out of 20 that works. So they're becoming a lot smarter. So need is the most important. It's not about country. It's not about spending power. It's about the need. So always keep that in your mind. Whenever you're doing a deck, you're ever doing a presentation to raise money, focus on the need. Why people need what you're offering. And that's the single most important thing.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. So then the questions are coming through on the chat function. So we're going to start, I think, in a minute with James Murray, and then we'll go on to Curl. And I can see that some of our friends and members are on, and I'd encourage you to chat. There's Avnish Goyal, there's Ralph Simon, there's Dinesh Damija. So I'm just mentioning a few names because I'm going to try and bring you into this conversation in a second. But maybe if we can, Stephen, if we can make James live, if that would be possible. James is there. James, you just need to unmute. James, are you there?
I think it says, give me 1 second. Maybe he's...
Yeah, he's coming. I can see that. And then after James, we'll go on to Curl. James? Okay. Whilst James is coming on, I'm going to ask you my other question. Key learnings during this COVID period, Bassim?
Key learnings is put your head down, be humble, look into your business again. Don't think your business is immune from COVID. I started to take actions right in March because I knew this was going to be a very long-term problem. So I had to clean up, restructure the business, add more responsibilities to people. And initially, my first reaction was to tighten risk. I spoke to my data scientists and I said, listen, you need to tighten risk. People are not going to pay and so on. So we kept control groups, and then the control groups started to pay better. So we opened up and so on. So what we did is we kept our head down, and daily we had these dashboards we were looking at to make sure we were on the right track. And funny enough, we still grew this year over last year, simply because of these actions that we were able to take.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think also the industry that you're in, it's kind of, people will always need mobile. This is a
credit.
You've all credit to you for choosing an industry which is slightly
I was
resistant to viruses.
Way before COVID.
Yes, exactly. So James, I can see you now. Hi, James. Would you like to open up with your question? How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you well. And we'll go on to Curl after yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I've noticed, I'm from Urban Hawk, by the way. We are a post-startup investment-ready tech company. We specialize in geospatial applications. There are certain things that have happened in the last, say, couple of years in the sense that the paradigm seems to be shifting from service versus product to more of an overlap. There is still that distinction. But what I thought, I was concerned a couple of years ago. I was thinking, was I being Mickey Mouse in the marketing of the company by trying to merge those paradigms? And what it turned out is that we were, in fact, slightly ahead of the idiom, if you like, on this. And I'm just wondering, perhaps this is something that the current climate, however difficult it is for everybody, may even speed up further and catalyze, in the sense that Those who provide a product will have to evolve to also incorporate a service. And there will have to be some, I think, communal sense that in order for any technological product to take off, it must come with some sort of consultancy-based service, sort of in-based training and so on, to integrate and develop any kind of business plan, be it small, medium, or even the major corporate players.
Look, the key, James, is it comes back again to the same thing. I can already see where your mind is at the moment. You're trying to combine certain things into a business, if I understand correctly, to make it more appealing. And I would ask you to jump on the other side of the fence and become a user of your product rather than a seller of your product. And I would say, if I was on the other side, would I take what James is saying? Would I like what he's telling me? Would I like this sense of community? But why don't I have this sense of community now is what I'll ask myself. Does it not work? So the reality is you need to go one step behind, sit on the other side, and rethink it in the opposite direction and try and find the answer yourself. Is what is it going to take you to scale this? It's not about the idea you put into it that maybe I could try this. There's no time to maybe try this because you're burning money. Every day you try something new, you're burning cash, and you don't want that. And if you have investors, they're going to start getting nervous on you. So think what it takes. And I don't know your business so much, so I can't give you any more. But all I'm saying is
both of you, so you can look at it at your leisure. But we're part of the 5G Victory program, which is a massive project in Europe, and that's that has set us up. That has put us into a more stratospheric, more kind of mobile sphere, and it's given us revenue. But the drawback is the next stage has to be the upscaling. So it's a good problem to have, but it is very much a problem, especially when my feeling is that the language we've been speaking has been kind of ahead of its time. Businesses are starting to catch up to it, and I'm very happy with that. But we had a good 2 or 3 years of talking to sort of these kind of people in the community who were very orthodox in Britain. The Americans seem to be slightly further ahead. The Europeans, Scandinavians, a bit more kind of autonomous in how they interacted. The platform for use of a product, which is kind of a service, and the sense that every tech product must have a service as part of it. So I think the paradigm is shifting, but it's good to hear you talk about the scale up as part of the definition. So thank you.
No worries. And I'll just tell you very quickly before you go, James, is that I had the same problem you had in 2004. I did start a business, which was well ahead of its years, and I had to shut it down. And this was a business where you could search by meaning, meaning you don't search by Google words, you search by meaning. So, it's like you say, I like to know about the medical industry in China. And what it does is it aggregates data from universities and research papers and all of that and so on. And there's one thing I didn't see that was happening is that I was way ahead of the curve, but also people were using my platform to cheat in exams and copy and had copyright issues. And that's something I missed all along because I thought, well, this is something nice to have. And it was a good service and people were paying for the service, but they were using it for the wrong thing. And therefore, as a result, I had to shut down that business. So sometimes it does happen. Sometimes, your thinking is ahead. Maybe you slow down a bit, redirect the business and just try and get on the right track.
Very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Bassim. I'm going to see if Curl will be live in a second, and then we'll follow Curl with Ishu Ansani and Rebecca Stringer. Curl, are you available?
I think so. Do you hear me?
Would you speak up a bit? We can just about hear you.
Oh, no, sorry.
No.
Is that any better?
Tiny bit. A bit louder. You might have to shout.
I might have to shout then. Oh, so hi, Bassim. Hello, Shalene. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Not so bad, thank you very much. So, Bassim, a couple of questions, or one question, but to give you a bit of background, I'm glad you talked about being ahead of the curve. I've been in the mobile industry pretty much since the beginning. So I was formerly the ambassador for visionary planning at Orange, and I left there back in 2002, set up a mobile payments company because I recognised the need. Unfortunately, the network operators and the banks didn't recognise the same need that I saw. So my question for you is, do you think there's a big difference between mobile banking and mobile payments? And do you think there's still an opportunity, certainly in Europe, for mobile payments?
So mobile payments is the future, okay? the difference between the emerging markets and the markets that we in Europe is that apps are very much available because of the high smartphone penetration in the Western world. When you talk about mobile payments and mobile money in Africa, that's the gem. That's where the real money is, and that's why I've put in a lot of money this year and last year to grow. And because it's still very, people still use cash, people still use checks, people still put money under the mattresses. This like in Nigeria, there's 2 million credit cards for a population of 190 million. I mean, this is insanity today. So the opportunity is there, and we're growing. The one problem, though, is why I'm slowing down in Nigeria on cash lending is because the government and the regulators were protecting the banks, and they did not want to give the telcos the mobile money licenses. And I wasn't going to jump the gun. I learned my lesson from 2004. So I'm waiting in Nigeria. However, in other countries like Zambia, Pakistan, Uganda, Ghana, these places, in Saudi Arabia, I've launched these services and they're doing extremely well because the banks and the telcos are aligned. They both share in the revenue. In Egypt, we are, after Kenya, we are the company that was chosen to provide credit scores for the whole Egyptian population. It was an initiative by the Egyptian government to create a database where we use all telco scores and create mobile wallets. So meaning we will have millions and millions of mobile wallet users, and they can then pay, you can borrow to pay a utility bill, pay to pay electricity, and so on. So if you're in these markets, I can tell you the opportunities are massive still there. In Europe, you're going to have to compete with the Revolut, N26, and these guys. And that's, I mean, they've raised hundreds of millions. I wouldn't even try to go there right now. I wouldn't even try myself to go there.
Thank you very much. Carl, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I think it's absolutely spot on. As you know, the solution that we built works on the lowest common denominator. We can pay by text, or we can use an app, or we can use a web, and it's all integrated. So that's an opportunity in the future.
Yeah, but Carl, maybe what you should do, just quickly before you go, is that instead of you trying to go and do this service on your own, maybe try and find a company that you can license your product to that is in the mobile space. So you sit behind as a white label. Perhaps you need to think about this and kind of tweak your business model a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Thank you.
All right, Carl, thanks.
Thanks, Carl. Nice to see you after a long time. So lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to see if I can move on to Ishan Sani, please, and then after that, Rebecca Stringer. Ishan, are you there? I can see Rebecca, so maybe we go to Rebecca next.
Ishan is frozen.
Ishan, so...
He's back.
Hi, Shalini. First of all, thank you for putting this together. Bassim, wonderful to talk to you. I'm giving you a tour of my house whilst I'm looking around. Look, it's brilliant to actually put this together, Shalini. Thank you very much. It's always interesting to meet entrepreneurs. Bassim, I was looking at your background. I've done similar stuff at a smaller scale. I'm ex-Microsoft. I own a company called TAB, the Alternative Board. We get highly ambitious business owners and leaders together into a very confidential setting. And with the view to do two things: help each other identify opportunities and solve challenges. So that's essentially what TAB does. This is called the Alternative Board. My question to you, and I meet lots of entrepreneurs, and we're doing a number of things with them. And I just had thousands of questions when I was listening to you. There was questions just popping out of my head. What about this? How about this? But let me just go to the start. I have one question for you. When you started off, was there a vision that you had? What was your driving force? What was that something? What was compelling you? What was that driving force behind you starting off your own organization? Just like to know that big why. What was that big why? What was the desire?
Not having anything to rely on if I failed. That was my biggest driver. It wasn't confident. I wasn't confident enough when I started. To be honest, even in some cases, I wasn't sure what I was doing, but I knew I had a gut feel that it was the right thing and there was a need for it. And the fear of failure is what drove me. People say, you know, fear of failure would drag you down. For me, that's the total opposite. I was watching something on Anthony Robbins the other day, and he was talking the opposite of what I say. And he was saying, you know, fear drives you down. In my opinion, fear makes you run. But if you run in the right direction, there's nothing more motivating than trying to achieve your objectives. So This is what really drove me.
Well said. And then who did you use as a sounding board? Because if you've got this drive and you've got this fear, then you always need a sounding board of people around you, people that are maybe smarter than you, that are surrounding yourself. Who did you use as a sounding board?
So initially there was nobody when I first started, because it was a simple product. It was something I could learn very, very quickly myself. I was intrigued by it. So I didn't have, but what with my fintech business currently, I had to hire the best brains in the world, because
Right.
I didn't have answers to many of the questions that were keeping me awake at night. And that was really disturbing me. I was no longer afraid of failure. What I was driven with was to create something so unique, so nice, that every day I could look at the dashboard and say, wow. And that's the joy I get today. And the sounding board was really the very, very intelligent people, and what I call the lieutenant generals that have been with me for 20 years. Those are the guys that have moved from one company to the other. They know my crap. They know when I'm pissed off. They know when I'm happy. They know when I'm talking rubbish. I don't speak like an engineer. I throw an idea on the table. I say, you guys are going to laugh at it, but I like you to go think about it. And sometimes it works. And that's my sounding board, really. It's very casual.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Jan. Nice to talk to you.
Very good questions. Nice to have those questions.
Thank you,
I'm sure you've got tons more, but I'm going to move on, if you didn't mind, Ashan, to Rebecca, if I may. Rebecca Stringer. I think she was live a minute ago.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh, hold on.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Oh, hi. Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Nice to see you. Very well, thank you.
Good, good. My question's really about, so I have a consulting firm all about digital analytics, and I'm in the process of creating my own platform. So my question to you was, in terms of the ideas that you've had, so obviously you've been very successful in many companies. Are there other businesses that have been unsuccessful, and at what point did you either pivot or stop or decide that, yes, this is actually a goer?
Well, a business is successful the moment you start it. This is what I've learned. I started maybe 4 businesses that failed, and usually within 3 months or 4 months of starting them, I knew there was no future. I use this example, and I like you to remember it always, because it's very, very nice. You know, when there's a very hot movie in the cinemas and you can't get a ticket, and eventually you get a ticket and you go there and said, well, you know what? I've just paid for this movie, and you get there and 10 minutes later, you're bored to death. And you say, well, I've paid for it. Sorry, I'm just going to stick here. I'm not going to move. I'm staying in this cinema. I'm going to buy popcorn. I'm going to spend more money to make this more fun. That doesn't work. It either works or it doesn't. And within a few months of really starting a business, you should get those signals that, hey, there is interest. There is someone, you know, there is a need for what I do. The biggest mistake most people do, and I did the same too, is when you keep trying to change the business from A, oh, maybe B will work better than maybe C. That's when you know you're on the wrong track. So think about the A, B, C, D, and E before you start the business, and put them together and check if that formula does work. And before you spend any of your own money, try with minimum resources. I can tell you, when I first started, I promise you, I had not even a mobile phone. I was using a landline in Nigeria. I had to wait 5 minutes to get a dial tone. And when I got the dial tone, I was the happiest person on earth. But I decided to keep my costs so low. I was working from my sitting room just to be able to make that call and so on, keeping my costs to the bottom, because I thought I can't afford to lose the little money I have. So don't get too excited about business. Be afraid that you will lose. And that's what's going to drive you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Do you empathize with that, Rebecca?
Say sorry?
Do you empathize with that?
Absolutely, yes.
Good. Thank you. Do you have another question, or shall I move on?
So I'm getting a bit noisy in the background, so you probably better move on.
Okay, no problem at all. I know that Avnish Goyal had his hand up a minute ago. I'm wondering if we can ask Avnish to ask his question. And I'm going to try and bring in Philip Maskell, if I may, and Ralph Simon in a minute, if I may. So Avnish, are you available?
I think he's gone off.
Has he gone off?
Oh, someone is on now.
Hi, Avnish. You're on mute.
I'm not on mute anymore, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us. So everyone, I just wanted to introduce Avnish. He's one of our investors who's also on the advisory board of E2E. Lovely to have you join us today. Thanks, Avnish, for joining us.
Great, thanks for allowing me to ask a question. Bassim, thank you for sharing your pearls of wisdom. I love hearing entrepreneurs share their story because it excites me when I hear some of the buzzwords that I've followed too, and it kind of endorses a lot of what I've believed over the years. And it's so great that you mentioned Tony Robbins, and I've been a big fan of Tony Robbins for the last 20 odd years, following some of his thoughts and ideas and principles. And one of the things I learned from Tony is the wheel of life, about having it all. And I find so many people so engrossed in their business, they let go of their health, their relationships, their mental state, and so on. And I just wanted to get your thoughts around kind of getting to that pinnacle of career success. Any advice you might have for myself and others about that whole thing of becoming financially successful, but being able to enjoy that whole journey with especially with your spouse and your children. And I just give you one quick example. I used to really admire Steve Jobs till I watched the film, and I lost that admiration for him because he was brilliant at what he did, but he trashed a lot of things along the way, and I lost that admiration. I just wanted to get your thoughts and views.
I know it's harsh, but unfortunately, I'll tell you one thing, is that you need to be able, first and foremost, to select a partner that fully understands what your objectives are and what you plan to deliver. You have to compromise. And I'm saying this very, very clearly. You have to compromise on many things, including family at the beginning, if you want to be successful. It's a path you have to choose. I know many friends of mine, they say, well, you know what, I want a balance, so I'm just going to get a job and I'm going to, live with it, and I'm happy and I'm content. I have people that say, they tell their families, okay, listen, the first 10 years of this, my pure focus is going to be my business. I want to grow it. Yes, I'm not going to see you much. And then after that, I'm sure I'll spend more time. And I'm an example of that. I put my business very, very high up there. Yes, I sacrificed some time with my kids, but I knew when they're young, I could sacrifice that time. And now I spend a lot of time with my kids because I was able to achieve what I wanted to achieve without a lot of, interference and so on. It's a choice. Really, you can't have the balance of everything. It's like riding onto a boat and going out, and you want the sea to be calm every day, the temperature to be absolutely perfect, the sun to be out and so on. It doesn't work. It's like you have to select the day that it works and go on that specific day. And this is the path to success. You can't have family, you can't have brothers and sisters tying you down, you can't have wife and kids tying you down and so on. You can't have anything tie you down, for that matter. The only thing that could tie you down is your work, is the dedication, fear of failure, and that's what you need to go for. You have to sacrifice those years. You have to be better than the next person. You have to be more brutal than the next person. Imagine we were all thinking the same way. We were all had the same equal thinking. We all want the same balance. No one will be progressing better than the other, right? We'd all be at the same success when it comes to business. And it's a choice. I have a friend in Canada. He's been working for government for 23 years in the same office. And he says, I would never leave this place because that's the way I like it. So it's a choice. It's a choice you need to make.
Great, thank you.
Avnish, thank you very much. Great question. You've had to make a lot of these choices throughout your journey already, haven't you? So I think that journey continues.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with the partner one for sure. You have to have a partner that resonates, and that's the challenge when you start early. You don't know where you're going, and you could end up with the wrong partner inadvertently. You didn't have that vision at the beginning, but you now have, and that person doesn't grow with you. And then what do you do? And that they are all the challenges.
Don't look back. Never look back.
Are we talking about a business partner, or are we talking about a life partner here?
I'm talking about life partner, but both actually.
Even a business partner. I had to get rid of a business partner that didn't share my vision, didn't share my style of business. And I had to buy him out early in one of my businesses because I knew down the road when this is successful, we're probably going to kill each other. So I thought, listen, let's stay friends. And you just have to untie yourself.
Yeah, it's harder when it's family, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Avnish. Nice to see you. Say hi to everyone for me.
Will do.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Ralph Simon to say hi if he's available. Ralph, would you be able to go live if you can see us? In a second.
Hi there. Great to meet you, Bassim, and Shalini, great to see you.
Finally, lovely to see you, Ralph. It was so nice to talk to you yesterday.
Great to talk with you. And Bassim, I've been aware of you for some time, and particularly the talent that you've had in banding together 19 countries, 19 cultures, 19 geographies. That's not easy. And you've got to love what you do, which of course you do. And use a phrase that I use a lot, particularly with yourself, is you are indeed a human doing, not a human being.
Thank you. And you're very right when you say about different cultures, but you know what? I tell you something. We had the way around this was actually very easy, but we didn't see it in the beginning. Is that you need to get there and find out who the real players on the ground are, who are those partners that can help you, that understand the culture, the environment, the systems, and guide you through that. And this is how we were able to scale from Africa to the Middle East, to Southeast Asia, to Latin America. You can imagine the difference in cultures here. You can imagine trying to do a lending service in Saudi Arabia, where we became very successful, and bypassing those cultural barriers and so on. So, but we had to work with the right people, obviously, people that understand. We hired only local people in every country we work in. We never sent someone from elsewhere because they understand these cultures, and it's very important. It's a super, super, super critical issue.
Important. I think there's people downplay the cultural element, not just in terms of growing a business, but also just in today's wider kind of globalization and social mediaization. You absolutely have to be aware of a culture, whether it's the culture around a product, the culture around a country, the culture around soccer, whatever it might be, that acts as a kind of binding glue for the business you want to develop.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
That is true. So, Shalini, you were about to say?
No, I was saying, like, Ralph, it's great to meet you finally, because we had a great conversation, and I just wanted to say a few words. Ralph is mentoring. He's been mentoring Ty Roberts. Ty Roberts is speaking for us next week on the 21st of October. Would you mind to share a little bit about Ty and some of your experiences with him? And Bassim, what you didn't know is Ralph is huge in the music industry. What was lovely is I'm a big fan of Bollywood music, and one day he's going to introduce me to Arjit Singh, who's my favorite Bollywood musician. He's working with him, so it'd be really nice if you wouldn't mind to share a little bit about your own background, Ralph, and also about Ty, and I'm sure that will lead on to a few more questions from the audience.
Sure, thank you very much. I've primarily been in the mobile industry for the last decade and a bit. We were very fortunate in that we were the first people to create ringtones outside of Korea and Japan, and that led into a whole very interesting arrangement and development, including early days of MTN in Nigeria, and then also developing a mobile health delivery network in Southern and Central Africa, because I was originally born in Africa but have been living in the UK and California for some time over the last 2 decades. First of all, I am involved in some interesting technology, particularly at the moment with some drone technology, new drone technology that can allow drones to fly for 6 months at a time, primarily in rural areas, and looking in fact at Africa, where the idea is to have drones that can provide internet connectivity to 2G, 3G, 4G, and obviously the later editions of smartphones. But fundamentally, the idea would be to try and provide very low cost. It's not like Loon of what Google were trying to do. It's a different element, but built around very interesting drone technology. So maybe that's something to speak about at some point.
Sure.
My background was also in the entertainment and content business, we developed people like Britney Spears, the Backstreet Boys, Justin Timberlake, and also some heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden and AC/DC. And then gradually that moved into, I lived in California. I moved to Silicon Valley and started working there with some of the real pioneers in Silicon Valley, including Ty Roberts. I met Ty in San Francisco over 20 years ago, who was the first person to develop CD-ROMs with key people like David Bowie and Peter Gabriel. And then I got to learn about his brilliance in terms of understanding what was coming next in terms of the marriage between digital, mobile, and content, and also particularly the whole area of the data and the data packages that really held it all together. The relationship with Ty developed over many years, and then when I moved from San Francisco to Los Angeles, I was asked to run Capitol Records, which is a big American music company, and at that point was very involved in the development of a lot of interesting new talent and established talent, whether it was the Beastie Boys or whether it was Radiohead or Frank Sinatra. And that was also an opportunity to be able to bring mobile into that particular space. But Ty Roberts was always someone who was a real future visioneer, not just a futurist. He was a visioneer because he could envision and then deploy and then implement this tremendous synthesis between technology and what was coming next. He then, for a short while, was the Chief Technology Officer for the Universal Music Group, which is the largest music group in the world, actually largely owned by someone that developed a lot in West Africa, the chairman of Vivendi, who is probably well known in the West African business community. But then Ty has just recently become, over the last year or so, the Chief Technology Officer for Jay-Z and Rock Nation, where he's been responsible for really driving the development of one of the most important streaming channels in the world called Tidal. And he's also very involved in developing artificial intelligence for live entertainment. One of the big problems with the COVID pandemic is that live entertainment has lost 98% of its activity. Just think about it, 98%. If this is a business that's a $25 to $35 billion business, and all of a sudden, over the last 7 months, you have not been able to have any live entertainment, in a country like Nigeria, where you've got an individual by the name of Don Jazzy, who developed Dabanj, who's very well known in Nigeria. I'm sure you would know him as him. But all aspects of entertainment were really unfortunately stopped in their tracks. And you've had nearly 17,000 concerts, performances, shows, Broadway, West End theatre, all being cancelled. So Ty has really been responsible in rethinking and refashioning how all of these things could work. So he will really be someone next week to see.
Can I, what I was wondering was, is there things that Bassim and Ty might be able to do together with the sort of telecoms background and the music background?
Sure.
And also the fact that Bassim is huge in the emerging market. So just wanted to see if there was a way of connecting the dots in some way or form.
I think there'd definitely be some connective tissue because, for example, I think Tidal, the streaming company, have got a relationship maybe with Glow, but I'm not exactly sure. But you and Ty will certainly find a lot in common, Bassim.
Maybe you do the intro, Shalini, and we...
I'd be happy to do that. It would be a marriage made in your kind of heaven.
Sounds good.
Ralph,
right,
thank
Ralph.
you
Good
so much.
talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph.
Thank you very much.
See
Thank
you. I'm going to move on now to Tony Goodwin. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Shalini. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm well, thank you. I'm much better than last week. Thank you.
Good to be here. And thanks for putting on another marvellous entrepreneurial session. You know, I can't agree more with previous questions from people and comments about what Bassim have said. You know, what's really important for me is to hear from someone as successful as Bassim that fear is a motivator, because that certainly is, even through the successes I've had with my business in Russia, India, China. We're in 30 countries. We're recruiting into about 78 countries with over 1,000 people working under the Antal umbrella through franchises and joint ventures and what have you. And all the time for me, the driver was, well, I don't want to fail because I can't fail in this country because this will look bad, or it will affect somebody else's family. It will affect someone else's future. And so for me, it wasn't going for glory. It was about trying to do things also on a budget. The other point that you mentioned, Bassim mentioned, doing it on a budget and not necessarily getting in total resources to do things and having huge amounts of people to draw upon and doing it yourself. I mean, I love that. It's really good to hear. I'm 27 years into my entrepreneurial career now. I started when I was a teenager, obviously, and it's just really good to hear this stuff. But the other gem, I thought, because I'm just about to develop a new platform, a new tech platform for doing business in recruitment. And I've looked at a thing called Upwork, which is now worth 3 billion in the States, WorkSum, which is very successful, Fiverr, which is like an exchange and mark for freelance working, Headhunter.ru, which is the Russian version of Monster Board, and JobServe and all these successful boards. And that last week went unicorn when Goldman Sachs sold $105 million worth of shares. And I was told last week they've got 42 million CVs on their database. So we can't possibly compete with them on an online offering. And then I thought, okay, that's it. We're big in Russia. We're good in Russia, but we can't go online in Russia. And I'd like to know what you think of this, Bassim, because when I slept on it, I thought to myself, but 42 million CVs is too many. How can they possibly deliver a good service to clients when they've got too much to offer almost? And if we go in there on a niche basis, on a specialist basis, we can carve out something for ourselves. What do you think of my thinking on that, Bassim? Am I barking up the wrong tree? Or
how much should they charge to put a CV in front of someone versus someone doing it through the traditional way?
Oh, it's much cheaper. But,
Thank you.
But
that answers the question.
Yeah.
So that's why they've got 42 million. That's why I've got 650 million people on my platform, because the acquisition cost of a bank to have someone take a loan is $150. My loan is $50. So how on earth can a bank compete with me? So I don't go against.
No-brainer.
I don't go against the giants. Actually, without knowing it, we've become the giant, and people are trying to understand how can we copy these guys. And I say it humbly. I don't say it in an arrogant way. I just, when it all happened, I didn't have the least expectations that this business was going to grow this large. But now we are the lion in the forest. People will have to come to us if they want. And I'll tell you, I'm going to eat them alive. I have to protect my business. And I tell you, headhunter are going to headhunt you if you try and go after them. So these guys,
and they're Russian.
And they're Russian, so be careful. So you're going to try not to go against the big guys. If the big guys are established, except you have something completely different offering, you can do it better, cheaper, quicker. I mean, I know of a company that I work with called WeWork, and they've done amazingly well. It was started by actually one of my staff, this company. And he's done amazingly well, but he started in an environment where there was a need, especially in Greece, where employment was a major issue. The industry was not organized and so on. So it's like, there's a lot of opportunities out there. Just never try to copy the established guys, honestly, because they're just going to eat you alive.
Yeah, we've got to go in with something different.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cheaper, better, faster, and there is a need for it.
The need. No, that's a very good point. Re-engineering it towards the need is what I've taken away from this, as well as the fear factor. That definitely is a driver for me. Great to meet you.
You too.
You're making a lot of fans here, Bassim. Tony, lovely to see you. And it was a lovely photograph.
And you, Celine.
And your 4 daughters having dinner together last week. So it must have been...
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, we had fun.
Surrounded by the right people again, aren't you? So
of course, yeah. Girl power.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, really nice to see you. I'm going to just ask to take a minute's break while we do a poll. Bassim, I hope you don't mind. We're just going to ask the audience a few questions. And the idea behind that is it helps us evolve our business offering with the feedback from the members. So Stephen, could I ask you to make the poll live, please? And if everyone, basically you can choose one answer or several answers. So the first question is, I'm interested in E2E because the events are informative and educational. I make valuable high quality connections. I make use of the membership benefits, or none of the above. If it's none of the above, drop me an email, please, to say what you would be interested in E2E for.
Or don't vote.
Sorry?
Or don't vote.
Oh, no, do vote. Number 2, which of the below services would you need the most? Business service consultation, lawyers, accountants, consultants, receiving flexi mentoring. So as you know, E2E, we place mentors on boards, but if you're looking at flexi mentoring, we're looking to introduce that, taking people like hopefully Bassim, Tony and Ralph, those sorts of individuals to mentor growing companies, finding a non-exec director, meeting like-minded people, fundraising, offering your services to our members. Is that what is more of interest to you? None of the above. Number 3, which of the following services would you benefit from? Part-time private market, real-time private market data, sales intelligence software, digital marketing support, web hosting and development, customer relationship management software, startup and SME intelligence, data intelligence. Again, none of the above. Would you benefit from the discounted access to physical and virtual office packages? It's either yes or no. If you say yes, we will make the introductions to IWG. Are you interested in discounted membership to the CBI? What I didn't mention is, again, I think we're the only company in the UK that can offer free membership to the CBI for 6 months. So if you don't have a membership to the CBI, if you join E2E, membership is complimentary. You get that as a part of our package. Number 6, when do you think that you might be able to attend a physical event? Will you go to a physical event this year? Would you be more comfortable to go Q1 next year? Or do you want to leave it later than that, later than Q1 next year? So on that one, pick one answer, please. On the others, you can pick multiple choice. Bassim, you and I can't answer these, unfortunately. But I'm asking the audience if they didn't mind to please just take a few minutes to answer those questions. So I'm going to ask Bassim, if I may. I'm very intrigued. Can you run us through what your day looks like? Are you somebody who exercises in the morning? How do you run your day? How do you run your week?
That's the first. Well, first thing I do is check my WhatsApps and emails as soon as I open my eyes. And then I sift through the most important messages and so on. But then I exercise religiously every day, 7 days a week. I do an hour for myself. This is my time. And after that, I deal with all the issues and so on. And the reason is, it comes back to the issues that we were discussing earlier, is about abandoning many things as you're trying to grow your business. And I abandoned my health in a way where I became extremely overweight and so on. And I decided about 13 years ago that I was going to shed all that weight off, and I've just maintained that. So that's very important. It also keeps my mind very clear when I exercise first thing in the morning. And obviously, meetings and follow on different businesses. I mean, we're talking today about my fintech business, but I've got a big medical cannabis business in South Africa that I've just built. I've got a family office with professional managers managing investments on my behalf. So I invest in a lot of technology businesses around the world. We've done about 40 investments so far. I've got my real estate business. So I spend a bit of my time with, you know, with some of the CEOs or some of the different members. That's more or less my typical day.
Gosh, I didn't know actually about the other businesses. So very, very interesting. So you've done that more recently. So Bassim, you know, in terms of exercise, what's your favorite? What do you do?
1 hour of squash every morning.
Okay. With a trainer or
With a
with
trainer, with a friend, with whoever. But
okay. And then tell us a bit about the cannabis business and when did that start and why did you get into
so
it?
basically, no, I was in logistics business, as you know, and then one of the things I noticed was everyone was talking about medical and about cannabis first, recreational cannabis. But then I started to think, who's doing the logistics for the cannabis industry? And I thought there must be a need there. And that's where my mind first went. And I started to look at it, but then I realized there's a need for logistics, but actually it is not on an international scale. There's local need for distribution, meaning a lot of mom and pop shops for distribution are required. And it's not something I thought I had the expertise in or something I could do. Like in the States, for example, you couldn't cross another state with cannabis, even though it's legal in one and illegal in another, etc. So there were issues around this and so on. So, and then I said, well, why don't I start my own a cannabis business? But mainly I wanted it to be medical. I didn't want it to be recreational and so on. But I knew nothing about it. So I started to make phone calls in my network and so on. And funny enough, one of my guys who works for me says, look, I've been researching this a lot and I can link you with the right scientists and so on. I said, get me a meeting next week with these guys. Flew them in, sat down with these guys. I was blown away about this industry. And only to realize that there are 8 medical cannabis facilities in the world, only 8. And the total capacity combined they had was something like 25 tons. And the market is doubling every year. So I thought, well, I'm going to be one of the first to get into this. And I decided to build a state-of-the-art facility. The second problem was the location. Where do you do this? The cost of production in Canada and Germany was extremely high. 1, to build a facility. 2, the actual labor cost in terms of farmers and so on was extremely difficult. I looked at Africa, but Africa had very bad regulation, meaning nobody will buy a medical product that comes out of Africa because people believe that the regulators are not strong enough to regulate the product and therefore it might be substandard. And with a bit of research, we found out that South Africa was a signatory to an EU agreement. It was the only country in Africa that had the standards to be able to have a medical facility. So I went to the government there and I said, I'm gonna spend $15 million here building the first phase of this facility, but can you draw up some regulation around this? And they listened. We worked with them and I built this facility. I completed it just about 6 weeks ago. I got the license this week after 2 years of building this facility, and we're going to start production in December. So this is purely a facility, and the model is, I don't know, many people might not know this, and it might be off the subject, but the thing is there's more than 510 strains of cannabis today. People think there's only one type. There's more than 510 nodes, and there's a lot more cannabinoids in the cannabis that people actually know of that people haven't discovered. So the trick here was to create an R&D within the facility to find a new treatment for diseases that can't be treated with traditional medicine. So for example, my dream would be able to use cannabis to replace antibiotics at some stage. And that's one thing I'm aiming for. As bodies are becoming more and more resistant to antibiotics, cannabis is absorbed a lot better, and therefore we're looking into this type of thing. And the facility is designed so that the medical industry in Germany, Canada, sends us the seed of the exact strain that they want, because only that strain can treat, for example, epilepsy, or can treat arthritis, or can treat cancer pain. If you use another strain, it doesn't work. And as a result, so we grow on their behalf and we ship it back to them at a healthy margin. So that's the model that we use.
Gosh, I wish you every success. That's very, very exciting.
Thanks.
Super industrious you are. So the 40 investments that you have, when you're looking to invest in a company, what are you looking for? Why have you chosen those 40 businesses roughly?
So I don't come in at a very early stage because we wouldn't have the time and the people to look whether this business will scale or be successful. We come in when the business has revenue. It could be a bit negative, it doesn't matter, but we need to see that the revenue is there and the revenue is coming in and it's consistent. And that's the number one thing that we look at. Two, if there's a need for that business, is it going to get to a certain level where the need is more within a community and then it's not going to be able to scale within the country, regionally, or globally? That's the other parameter that we look at. And obviously, we look at comparables. Has there been similar businesses that have scaled or have grown or have limitations? And why did they have that limitations? Or why did they scale? So we look at all these parameters, and then the investment team obviously goes into a lot more DD into this and so on, and we follow a very rigorous process. And we invest anything from $500,000 to $5 million is our maximum ticket per company.
Great. And they're all tech businesses generally, are they, Bassim?
Generally, we like tech. I mean, generally we like tech, but we're in a car pawn business, for example, where people lend money to owners who need short-term cash against their cars or against assets. So we lend into that. So it's semi-tech, but it's still the traditional lending business. We look at, I mean, we've looked at many different investments, and we've actually invested in some non-tech businesses, but tech, I would say, is about 80% of what we do.
Okay, and so because you have so much international experience, I'm just quite keen to explore with you, are there any particular countries that you think have got it quite right in terms of this time of during COVID, that have managed the situation very, very well? And what's your views on the UK's political scene?
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, for me, I say it with all this, I have no respect for politicians whatsoever. And I think politicians only do what saves their jobs and next vote. They never ever do what's good for either the country or the people. And when people talk about shutdowns, I'll refer you to Sweden, where there was no shutdown and we had less cases than we had in the UK. Yes, we had a lesser population, etc. But the fact is, they were not as affected as the UK and so on. In Africa, the governments tried to shut down, but no one respected it. Nigeria is one example, and you can count in tens of thousands of cases, only hardly any death in Nigeria, and 190 million population. So that just answers itself. I mean, this flip-flopping every day we hear in the UK, 1 minute circuit breakdown. They love these words. They love the words like national interest, lockdown, my constituents, they love the same words. We keep hearing the same words in a different format every day. And to be honest, I've stopped listening to it. I'm just going to get on and do my own thing. I think this, you know, yeah, COVID is serious, obviously, but I think there's a certain, the smart way to do it is that the people that are more vulnerable should be quarantined in a way, and they should be the ones to worry most, and people should get on with their lives. I mean, the effects of this is going to be for generations. This is not going to be for the next 6 months or 1 year. This COVID and these lockdowns, mental health, people losing on universities, schools, incomes, people leaving their jobs. How are people going to pay the bills for universities next year and the year after when they have no jobs? So the impact we haven't even begun to feel. And no country has got it right. That I can tell you, except New Zealand.
Okay, and you feel New Zealand have got it
totally. But again, you know, it's like a country surrounded by water. It's a small population. People don't like leaving New Zealand, so a lot of the things around their culture help them. Comes back to Ralph's earlier point, is that if you understand the culture, then you'll understand why things work. And the culture worked for them in New Zealand. It's such a beautiful country. They didn't need to go anywhere or travel, and they could just stop travel coming in, and it was fine. So New Zealand got it right. I wouldn't say it's purely leadership. I think culture and the way the people are has actually played a big role in this.
Okay, and I'm conscious we're coming up to time. I'm going to ask Stephen to share the poll results in a second. How can we be of help to you, Bassim? You do so much for E2E, you do so much for me. What can we do to say thank you, and how can we be of help?
Send us deals to invest in. That's all we want. We don't want anything more.
Fair enough. Okay.
I'll introduce you to Alan, my CEO. I'll drop you guys an email, and you guys take it up. And if you have deals, pass it on. We'll definitely look at them.
Okay, and when you look at a business like ours, Bassim, what do you feel that we should be doing? Maybe E2E or other organizations. There's lots of organizations like ours. There's YPO, there's EO, there's Tech Nation. Do you look at this organization and think, God, Shalini, you should be doing this?
No, because I think you're doing, honestly, an amazing job. Shalini, your energy is just incredible. I've always seen it. How many years I've known you? You've always been the same. You've always been with that energy, that smile, that drive. So it's one place where I can't tell you what to do. You need to tell me what to do.
Okay, thank you, Bassim. I really appreciate it. Let's see what the audience is telling me what to do. Let's see the results of the poll then. Stephen, if you wouldn't mind to share that. Okay, so everybody's saying that they like the educational events, the informative events. That's what we gain on number one. Number two, we will have to kind of ignore government rules. I want to get people back into a room and meeting like-minded individuals. In the beginning, when COVID happened and I didn't have to dress up and go to an event, I was quite pleased. But I have to tell you, I'm pulling my hair out these days. I can't wait to get back into a physical environment. So that was number two. Number three, we have an equal share in a lot of them, but startup and SME data intelligence. So I'd just like to announce we've just today signed a contract with Dealroom. Dealroom is one of the most active companies in the UK to provide private market data. So if you are looking for data, please do contact us and we can connect you to Dealroom. We have a special deal with them, but we can also give you data from Dealroom. And they're happy to work with us. Number four, would you benefit from serviced offices, discounted serviced office packages? The 65% have said no, 35% have said yes. And are you interested in the discounted CBI membership? 56% is saying yes, 44% is saying no. And in terms of meeting up, oh no, I'm disappointed. I was hoping you would say this year, but the majority have gone for later in Q1. So we need to build confidence. What Bassim was saying, we need to build confidence.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Get out there.
Yes, we need to build confidence.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I'd like to meet people sooner. I agree with Bassim. Yeah. Too much lockdown, too many restrictions.
So I sit on the Mayor of London's Business Advisory Board, and it's quite interesting because the message we are supposed to be giving is London is open, and we really want to encourage people to start going back to manage the social distancing, but encourage going back to your offices.
Since you meet the mayor, Shalini, can I ask you please to ask him to reduce those cycle lanes and turning them into a construction site?
Good point.
If you don't mind, please pass on that word from me.
I will introduce you to him. If you would like.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Well, can I say a massive thank you? We can't do a proper applause where we could do it like this, but I want to say a huge thank you. It's wonderful to see you back. And, you know, we wish you continued success. I will send you deals, and I hope we can be of help to you as much as you have been over the last few years consistently for E2E and myself. And it's been really nice and a huge privilege and honor to have you. I'm hoping one day, this man has his private yacht, he has his private jet. I'm hoping one day we can do an event when with you in either.
When we celebrate a big deal.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Shalini,
yes.
Shalini, before you go,
yes,
I just want to show this to you of your dream icon.
I can't wait to see him through you. I hope that will happen, Ralph. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Ralph. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Bassim. Bye.